except for to bring an 11-year-old kid to his house and get him drunk. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know how else to get a kid through getting the shit kicked out of him by his stepdad. How else do you get a kid through that? Like, he didn't know. It is what it is. But, I started drinking and smoking weed at like 10, 11 years old on the weekends with my uncle. Like, just going to his house on the weekends, getting smashed, and then going back to school on Monday morning, like, in, like, 6th grade. Like, I started young. And, like, it kind of went in waves. Like, it started off with, just the normal smoking weed and drinking as a teenager, escalated into doing pills. The thing that differentiated me from some other stories is that when I was about 15, my mom started dating somebody who had a lot of family members that sold a lot of drugs, and they were all in my living room all day long. So I had everything readily available, which turned me into not just some kid on the street. I was the kid on the street that could get every drug that everybody wanted at any time. And that made me very popular with people. It escalated my drug habits in ways that I can't even explain. Like, I went from thinking I was fucking Al Pacino, thinking I was Scarface, throwing parties, drinking out of a fucking chalice. Like, I refused to drink out of anything but a chalice because I was
right. You got
the man.
Pink cup, the pink cane. Right.
Word. And listen, like, I was making to that just seemed like big time money. But the whole time I was doing it, I was getting high on stuff and blowing every penny that I made. And I got my buddy Danny one time. He goes, "Hey, I want you to do me a favor. It was like, I want you to take a list of all the money that you spent, add it up. Everything you've spent in the past year on drugs, or every bit of drugs that you've consumed, and how much money it cost for those drugs. Like, street value, like how much I would have saved." And in a year, we did calculations for a year, it was over $1 million. Like, that's the amount of drugs I was selling. I was selling enough weed to be able to pop 150 perks a day. Like, I was doing a lot. And then the perks turned into, I was doing 150 perks a day. That's a lot of pills and I wasn't eating them.
You're lucky you still have a liver.
Right. Listen, doctors are baffled by me right now. They're like, how are you not, like, dead? But, so I did a lot, and that turned, like, I was selling everything. And that was how my habit kept going.
Fuck.
Like, I wasn't fishing for doctors.
Yeah.
I had drugs thrown at me. As long as I could sell them, everything I wanted was free.
You know what the bad part about that is? I got prescribed perks, and I take one or two, and I'm knocked the fuck out.
Well, yeah, the first time I took them, I was the same way.
Yeah.
It was like,
shit.
And then, so, like, I remember I was big selling Percocets. Like, I was selling Percocets. And I did time for all this shit, so I could talk about it freely. Now I've already been convicted.
So now, after you all that stuff, now where are you at right now?
So I'm coming in, like, so I upgraded to heroin pretty quick. And then everything downward spiraled bad. Like, once I hit the heroin, and I didn't start with sniffing heroin. When I started heroin, I was shooting heroin. So it was bad from the beginning. My house went from being this jumping, crazy, fun party spot to just a dope house. Like, my kids were in danger. Like, it was bad, dude. I removed my kids from my house. That's how bad my house was. Like, I was like, I can't have kids here anymore. It wasn't safe.
Yeah.
Like, I had to take my kids and have them go stay with my mother.
you know, that's pretty interesting though, because like a lot of people, especially that deep into their addiction, don't have that conscious thought. To
Well,
think
I
about
was
it.
I say this. I was lucky enough that Children and Youth was involved for a prior incident with my kid's mother, because that's like a whole other story. Like, things escalated. She left me with the kids.
Right.
And a habit. Like, I was already fucked from the door, and it just escalated even worse. So Children and Youth was involved, and they already had their hands in. And if I could see it was that bad, they were going to see it was that bad, and they would have pulled them and had them, you know what I mean, shipped off into foster care. And I wasn't having that. I had a house for them to go to. So my mom took my kids, and then everything downward spiraled. You know, I went from having a whole bunch of money, having a car, having an apartment, to being homeless on the street within a year.
So what would you say is the defining moment that turned that around?
Oh, we're getting there too. It took a lot, honestly. Like, every time I thought that I was at rock bottom, somebody sharpened my shovel and pickaxe. Like, it just got deeper. It just kept getting worse. Every time I thought things were at the lowest point they could possibly get, something else happened that drugged me just a little bit lower, and I was stuck in a bout with depression that was built on top of this addiction to the heroin. So, like, on top of being addicted to heroin, I don't want to not have heroin because I'm going to be sick. And then on top of it, I don't want to not have heroin because I don't want to deal with my emotions. And I didn't know that then, but I know that now. You know, subconsciously, I was using it just to deal with emotions. Good, bad, didn't matter. So I go to jail. Well, I was working with somebody, and we were hanging out. This is actually, like, kind of hard. I was working with somebody outside of Allentown, and I was staying with him at a house out in Walnutport. It was out, like, in the sticks in the middle of nowhere, and we were, like, kind of doing a little hustle and work thing. Like, we were working on this dude's property, getting rid of scrap metal, but we were hustling drugs too. And we had a girl come over to one night, and she was getting high, and she couldn't hit her vein with the needle. I did it for her, and she fell asleep and didn't wake up. I think it was maybe 3 weeks after that I finally got arrested. When I got arrested, there was a whole slew of charges. Like, it was ridiculous. First, so they raided my uncle's house where I was staying in Easton. Like, it came in with riot shields, AK-47s, like, assault rifles, dude. They came in with the gang squad because of this tattoo here. Apparently, you know, it's because I listen to certain music, I'm considered a gang member. And they really, like, they don't take that lightly. That's not a joke. Like,
Right.
Like, they really do take that into account when they come into your house, try to arrest you. So they kicked in my uncle's door at 6 o'clock in the morning while the kids are getting ready for school with assault rifles and riot shields, and which is actually the center of my PTSD. I can't be around even the nicest of police. I shake. I uncontrollably. It's crazy. So I went to jail, and I started dealing with my problems because I was sober. You know, I mean, county jail, there's not typically a lot of drugs. And when I'm in jail, I'm not necessarily like everybody else, even though I'm in my addiction. My focus was always, I can't do this in here. This is something I need to not do in here because I'm in here because I did this. So I put myself in treatment. I did a little treatment program. It was like a 6-month program in the jail, but it was voluntary. Like, I had to sign up for it. So I signed up to do it. Didn't get to finish it. I ended up going to state prison in the middle of it. But while I'm in jail, like, all these charges kept coming in, and that was one of them. Like, that I was there, and there was a good possibility I was getting hit with a homicide. The girl's father. So my counselor had me write in the girl's father to talk to him about the situation, to speak my side of the story, because I never met the man to let him know what happened to his daughter. Like, I owed him that. I felt like that. I owed this man that much. So I never forget my counselor, Mr. McKellar. He had me write this guy a letter and just tell him everything, because it was on my mind, dude. Like, I was sober, and I was feeling that. Like, I fucking felt like I killed this girl. And I wrote the letter, not knowing whether or not it was going to cause me to be in jail for the rest of my life or what the fuck was going to happen, and it ended up being a blessing. Like, he wrote me back and was just like, absolutely not, I will not. And this was before, like, they were picking up these charges for people. Like I got caught with it right before they started making it, like, mandatory to go to jail for this shit. Like, people are going to jail for a long time for this stuff right now. Yeah, just for selling. They're giving out mandatory 10-year sentences just for you giving somebody a bag of drugs that kills them, if you're the drug dealer. Yeah. But like these people are making that that's a whole nother story, but that's a whole nother talk and discussion. But so yeah, he wrote back and said that, you know, he didn't want his daughter's life to be in vain. He didn't want her to lose her life in vain. So he said, that he's glad that I found peace in writing him, but he did not want the charges to be filed, so he made sure that I didn't get charged with that, at least. Because that was one of the 30 things that they had on me. But I went away, I did some time, and I had time to learn a little bit of what it was like to be sober, because I hadn't done that yet since I was an adult. Like, I might have had a day or two, but never a serious consecutive amount of time, because even if I wasn't doing this, I was doing that. If I wasn't drinking, I was smoking weed, or I was smoking crack, or I was doing pills, or I was doing that. So there was always something in my system. Never knew what reality was. Go to jail and got a big hard slap of it. Came home and, I thought everything was good. I thought I was okay. Ended up falling again. This last time was the last stint. I got clean. Something while I was away. We're not sure what. We're not sure who. We're not sure if it's even as bad as we think, but something may have happened to my daughter. There was a video on the internet. We don't know if she made it. We don't know if somebody else made it. I'm not going to go into crazy details, but it was crazy to think that I wasn't there to protect her from that. And that was the thought that eventually pushed me through to get completely clean and sober. Like, it was a long journey of thinking and beating myself up. And finally, I was just done, and I was ready to be back in my kid's life.
So what happened with your daughter was motivation for you to change. Because I know some people would, when something like that happens, that guilt and shame keeps them boxed in. You know what I'm saying? Because like they feel like they failed or whatever the case may be, and they sit back and they wallow in that self-pity and keep themselves trapped for a long time because they feel like they didn't do something they were supposed to. But it's rare that somebody can actually take a situation like that and use it as motivation.
And I'm not going to go into much detail, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm downplaying what the situation with my daughter. Something definitely happened.
Right.
We just don't know who, what, where, when, why, or whether it was malicious. So I don't want to make any insinuation that it was.
I understand that. I understand.
That was the key element, was that I was being looked at as the bad guy in this situation. The mother of my kids was like, well, you were not around, you weren't talking about it, things look fishy, I think you were involved. And then for the funny part, and anybody who's listening can look it up, I don't remember when it is, but I was on an episode of the Steve Wilkos show because I had to prove to her that
I think I remember that.
I went on the Steve Wilkos show, and I took a lie detector test to prove that I had nothing to do with the situation surrounding my daughter.
So the funny thing is you are now the fourth person I know that has been either on Maury or the Steve Wilkos show.
My cousin
That's
Corey, was on Maury to get. I think he did a paternity test.
Yeah. I know two people that did that, the paternity test, and then I know two people now that have been on the Steve Wilkos show.
And what's crazy is, so like, if people look up this clip and they see these videos, so if you look at the Steve Wilkos video, the day we did the show, I was actually only about a week and a half clean. That was in the beginning of my journey. So like, you can see me like when I was at my skinniest on
Right.
that. It's crazy. Like, I looked so, I don't know, it was weird.
So since everybody's listening to this right now and can't really see what we're doing,
Insert clip here.
yeah, Storm is currently looking for the Steve Wilkos clip. Maybe we'll make that available later on the Facebook page.
I think the name of the episode was "Did You Make a Child Porn Video of Your Daughter" or something like that, or internet video. It's the first one. Oh, we can't.
You can't hear this, but I'll insert the recording.
No, we can't.
Look at skinny ass
You look
Tony.
so young. Oh my God! Look how skinny you are.
Yeah, man. I was definitely not healthy yet. But I was on the right path, man. My head was in the right